Welcome to the show. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook, and we appreciate everybody being with us tonight. We've got Paris, myself, and myself is Paris, and then Scott and Shane. Sorry, that kind of sounded weird when I said it the wrong
It
way.
worked. It worked.
Anyways, so we've got the three of us tonight.
Leading off the show, me, myself, and I.
Yeah, the three. We're gonna have a good time. Sounds like so. Appreciate that, everybody, being on the show. A couple of things, real quick. Make sure that you're on our YouTube channel, that you hit like and you hit subscribe. If you hit the like button and you're on live with us listening right now, hit the like button so that puts it out to the algorithm to let people know that this is a live broadcast worth listening to and watching. And so we'd really appreciate it if you were hit the like button. Also, remember our YouTube, our Facebook group at Emergency Prep and Self-Reliance. We have a website as well, preppertalkradio.com. And we just launched our Amazon store, which is at amazon.com/shop/preppertalk. Anyways, there's going to be a link in the description below. And if you do Prepper Talk Radio, you'll see Shane's bag, my bag, and Scott's bag on there. And we're going to be adding to that as we go. Super excited about bringing more information, more gear to you. And if you've noticed on our YouTube channel, we've had a lot of gear reviews that we're doing. This last week, I did a gear review on a light, and Shane did a couple gear reviews on some communication stuff and some different lights that we're doing. And we're going to be putting up 2 or 3 gear reviews every week, as well as our podcast. So I'm really excited to bring that to you as well. So please don't forget, we're still doing the Jace case giveaway and the 5-ounce silver bar giveaway as soon as we hit 1,000 subscribers. I checked earlier today and we were at 822. So we're getting there. We're closing in on it, and we're getting faster. So
yeah, and I just wanted to point out, these lists we made for you guys on Amazon, the Amazon store. I in particular, I know Paris and Scott as well, have put a lot of time into researching the gear that we buy. And the stuff we're listing on there, we're not just picking stuff at random. This is stuff we own, this is stuff we use, we've tested out, and we've spent at least I've spent a lot of time, I'll speak for myself, figuring out what works best for me. And obviously what works best for me may not work best for you, but hopefully it will at least shortcut the process of choosing your survival, your preparedness gear. And we hope you'll use the links and help support the show.
Absolutely. So another exciting thing too is that we're having a lot of we're starting to calendar out some things we're going to be a part of this year. We're looking at different events that are going on in Utah that we want to be a part of. I know that last year we did the Be Prepared Expo, and that's coming up again in June. But there's a couple other things that are going on. We won't announce those yet until we actually have some final word back from the sponsors to see if we can get a booth or we can actually be there and do a live show or do whatever we can. But there's some things coming up that we're excited about. So definitely stick with us, stay tuned. And yeah, Shane, I want to just talk really quickly to what you said. And my wife will tell you that I overanalyze things. If I'm going to buy something, I check it, double check it, triple check it.
I'll vouch
put
for
it
that.
on the list, wait for it, wait another, double research it again.
Is it on sale?
Times. Yeah, exactly.
Paralysis of analysis is what
yes,
they call that.
I have a little bit of that.
Student mode.
And
there's certain things that I'm that way on. You're not alone.
Yeah. But when I pull the trigger on something, it's because I feel really good about it. And I've done sufficient research for me to feel good about it. And hopefully that may or may not be sufficient research for you if you want to go check it out.
And I've made enough bad decisions to where you can rely on all the bad decisions I made, and finally settled on the right gear for me. So
yeah, let us make the bad decisions for you, I suppose.
Yeah, I've done plenty of that.
Well, today we actually are kind of what kind of gave us some inspiration for today's show was a question that we got on our YouTube channel actually was, what about all these climate change? The question was, with all the climate change, quote unquote, to issues that are going on, what do you think California will do in terms of locking us down? Or if we have lockdowns, what do we do to survive and thrive in a lockdown scenario? So that kind of, we're going to branch off from that as kind of the main hub in the talk today. But the reality is that when you have a couple scenarios. One is where it's an emergency situation and you got to grab your bag and go. And that's the grab and go bag that a lot of people talk about. And then there's another situation where you might have a you might have a lockdown or an emergency that's outside, and you got to bug in, what they call it, bug in, and you got to stay in and hunker down and keep yourself safe from what's going on out there. So those are kind of really the two macro scenarios. And so today we're going to focus in on bugging in, or if something's going on in your community, something's going on in the world, something going on in your city, state, whatever, what can you do to stay safe in your current location, in your home? So that's kind of the theme for the day's discussion.
Yeah, well, I wanted to start out by first saying I think we will see more lockdowns orders issued, but let me be perfectly clear. Lockdowns are for inmates. I am not an inmate. I do not plan on being an inmate. I am a free man. Call me sovereign. I'll use that word. I know it's a kind of an ugly word when it comes to our governments.
The FBI is listening.
Exactly. I am a sovereign man, human being, and I am not an inmate, nor do I ever plan on being an inmate. And I do not comply. I will not comply. I will disobey. But keeping that in mind, there is a lot we need to take into account when it comes to that word lockdown, right? And locked in obviously means, okay, we're either confined to our homes or from our home to our vehicle to our workplace. It could mean a lot of different things. And first thing I would say is get your butt out of California.
As an answer to that guy's question, particularly. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Exactly.
Get yourself to Tombstone, Arizona. Everyone in California, listen to me. Get yourself to Tombstone, Arizona.
What's in Tombstone? Fill us in, Scott.
That's where all the Californians will be.
Don't
go to Utah. It's too cold for you. It is horribly cold. It is.
Yeah, don't come here.
Speaking of cold,
about 50
it was
degrees.
So cold 3 days ago. It was negative 62 degrees. The coldest place in the United States that day.
North America, pretty much, including Alaska.
Wow.
And Hawaii.
A little spot in northern Utah that sets records called Peter's Sink.
Yep.
All right. And it does set cold records on occasion or fairly often. So if you want to experience that kind of cold, it's not very far, much of a vehicle or car ride from where we are now, a couple hours. And you're in 60 below. I've never experienced that. The closest I've been heading up to that area is about negative 22. But that has to do with lockdowns. I don't remember where this was going.
Yeah, well, no, like
don't move here because he's trying to discourage people from.
Don't come to Utah.
Too cold.
So going back to bugging in, sheltering in place, right? Staying home when necessary, but never being locked down, right? I will not comply either. There are chances, right? You look at what's going on in China. They're lockdowns all the time. You're on a COVID lockdown. They'll lock you in and bar your windows, and you can't get out and you can't go do anything, and people are starving, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's not crazy to think that could happen here.
And it kind of did a little bit, actually.
Right. Think about the lockdowns that we all got put through due to our own COVID scares. You got to stay 6 feet apart. You can't go visit loved ones, even if they're dying. Like you can't visit your grandma and grandpa. You can't go to the old folks' homes. You can't go to church anymore, right? Well, what can you do? You still have, like, for these scenarios, all these types of scenarios, it's like you've got to build a kick butt community or you're screwed. And by that I mean like high levels of trust of people like-minded. Like, I'm fortunate in the neighborhood that I live in. I've got some very like-minded people that I could stay here pretty indefinitely, right? But my neighborhood before that, the place I lived before that, I was like, everyone's like, we're coming to your house. I'm like, crap. And that was my entire, and I was the emergency preparedness coordinator for that ward for church, right? And I'm that again here, but no one wants to talk to me about it. They're like, well, I got all the stuff I need. What's the ward plan if something goes sideways? Okay, here's the plan. Cool, we got it. They're like, call me if you need me. And if that doesn't work, come over to my house, What are you going to do if you have to stay home? Like, if you don't have groceries on hand, if you don't have food on hand, if you don't have a renewable food supply, like
water supply,
how long can you stay home? And I was thinking about this yesterday. Like, what if there were a nuke scenario? right? And it was far enough away that it didn't hit you right away, but you're going to have the fallout. You can shelter in place in your home. There's ways to do it, but renewable food supply afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how long is it going to take for you to be able to grow food again? That's something I need to study more, right?
Yeah, hydroponics or something inside the house.
They say it's 2 to 3 weeks typically for the radiation to all hit the ground and start dying out. But like, honestly, can I just start growing stuff? No, I got to wait a little while. So how long do I have to wait? And the thought came, what if I set up an indoor growing system? And what if I got some Coturnix quails and brought them inside? Because they don't stink as bad as, as chickens, but it's like they lay a crap ton of eggs. They're small, but they're more nutrient dense. They can lay a lot more than a chicken can. And, dispatch them if I have to. But if I have it on a rolling cart that I put out on the back patio, roll it in if there's something happening.
Mm-hmm.
Seal up all the windows, go through all those precautions. But I'm like, what can I do that would keep me busy inside in my safe space? Safe space. All the college kids will love that. Keep me safe in my safe space. Keep me busy. Keep me fed. Keep my family fed for however long we have to stay there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the worst case scenario I can think of.
Yeah, and kind of like what Parrish was saying at first is, okay, what can we do to survive and thrive a bug-in scenario or a situation when the community is supposedly locked down, right? To me, survive and thrive, those are both mental. It is of course, yes, you have to be prepared. You have to have what you need first before you need it. Just like a parachute, right? Or just like a handgun. But to survive and thrive is absolutely a mind game. It's a mental game, right? If I were locked down, if I were thrown into a situation where I'm stuck in a room as a prisoner, my mindset would say, I'm taking advantage of this. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to do this. I'm going to read. I'm going to study. There's so many things I've been wanting to do. If I could hold still for a minute that I want to do, that I could do. So prepare and plan for that now. If I were to sit and hold still, like when I'm up at my property and it's so cold, it was 10 below yesterday or this morning up there, heading up tomorrow. But okay, that means I'm kind of confined to the Quonset, to the cabin, right? So what can I do? What can I get done in that small area and not be outside freezing? So that takes some planning to not go stir crazy, to get stuff done and to feel like I am accomplishing something. It takes some planning, preparation.
Mm-hmm. And there's multiple scenarios for this whole bugging in or shelter in place situation. Not just a lockdown from some climate change nonsense that the governor wants to do to you. It's maybe, how many people in the Midwest during the riots were scared to go out of there? You couldn't even go to downtown, or you couldn't even go to the grocery store because you were nervous that somebody was going to attack you. Or maybe you're maybe a tornado just ran through your neighborhood, cutting off all the main streets to the different grocery outlets or the stores that are available. And your house was the one house that was saved and everybody's coming to your house. Or maybe there was an earthquake and the same thing, and you've got the roads are blocked off or are ruined. There's a lot of different scenarios that can run where you've got to be sheltered in place. Clearly, the probably the more pending one for certain people, is going to be some of these government issued lockdowns potentially, and that's a scare that people legitimately have. I think people are starting to wake up to realize we've let this government kind of get too much control and go too far. And so what do we do now to be prepared? And so thankfully people are thinking that way. And that's good, because once you start to think that way, you start to realize, wait a minute, what can we do to switch that around? So the first thing is be prepared yourself. Have enough food storage that you could last. Is your 90-day pantry in order? Do you have it? Do you have everything that you would eat normally ready to go? Do you have enough water to last you for a month or 2 or 3? And then find a renewable source of water for when that water source runs out. And then making sure that you have a way to stay warm in case you're in a situation where there's, things get cut off, electricity or gas, natural gas. In California, you can't have a gas stove anymore for some reason because it's, it's a detriment to, millions of years of using things, and now all of a sudden it's a
So
detriment to the
garbage.
society.
So hey, I want to jump in here real quick.
Oh, go. Yeah.
Want to ask you guys who are watching us live, go over to YouTube if you would please. Click the like button. We're trying to experiment to see if that's going to improve our algorithm and throw us out there more. So if you guys would just go over there and click the like button, that would help us out and see if we can actually push this out into the YouTube world. See if that works for us a little better.
Good idea, Shane. Thanks.
Yeah, fantastic.
Sorry to interrupt.
Well, so I don't know. Lockdown's stupid. I think that what we're really probably going to see are not so much lockdowns, but I think we're going to see I just totally forgot the word when they call up the National Guard and martial law.
So,
We're going to see martial law things where you can't move around at night, right? I think we're going to see
curfews,
power outages, and curfews, right? Where you're going to really have to rely on your neighborhood, and there will be scenarios where there's going to be a marauder, right? There's going to be stupid people that are trying to run around and steal other people's stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Well, where do you live? Is it accessible? Is it in the middle of the city? Do you have a better option to relocate before things get that bad? Or can you shelter in place and be safe where you are? Can you build a community watch system? Can you keep your own law and order in your little tribe, your little neighborhood?
Mm-hmm.
Like those things are things that I'm always thinking about.
Yeah,
I've
a lot of us
multiple groups of resources right here where I live, but also if I have to bounce, I've got 3 places I can go. But I have to identify where I'm going before I'm going to take off, and what resources I need. Can I get to where I need to go with the resources I have?
I like what you said, Scott, about martial law being a real thing, because people take for granted the fact that, it's 8:00 at night, forgot to get the milk. I got to go to the store real quick and grab it. Well, curfew just started. Now what do you do? So being prepared ahead of time can be something simple like that. Just making sure you have the resources necessary to last you until you can go. And that was a real thing in places like Australia and New Zealand and some of those other countries where they were locked down. They couldn't go. It was a curfew. There was a form of martial law that was real. And Australia is not a third world country, people. It's in the first world arena, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of countries, and people listening to the podcast can maybe jump on in our group or something and let us know how that worked for them. But the reality is that if governments do those types of things, we need to be ready and prepared and be okay with, okay, we can stay inside. We're safe. We're okay. Our family's fine.
Do you have a plan for your kids?
Yeah, and I don't know that we're going to see anything or the next event, because we're told there's going to be another event, right? I mean, Bill Gates has told us there's going to be another pandemic, right? Or
in
I should
2024
say
by
pandemic.
2024.
Yeah, and so we know other things are coming, but whether or not, I mean, I think people are opening their eyes. They're becoming awake to what has happened and what the truth is, right? So they're not going to be as eager to be obedient to the powers that be this next time around, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do we take advantage of that? I don't know if that's the right wording, but how do we leverage that to be disobedient and to be and I think part of that is knowing the Constitution, knowing your rights, knowing how to verbalize that, knowing how to speak intelligently and well with those who would exert control and power over you in those situations, right? I think that is a big part of being prepared, saying, hey, you know what? Maybe not use the words like we're using that will set people on fire, like sovereign and such, but
trigger words,
exactly,
trigger trauma.
Exactly, which and some police officers will probably take those kinds of words very unkindly, and you can get in trouble. So, I think it takes a lot of thought experiment, thought planning as to if you're out and about during a lockdown period of the things you'll say, and practice them and burn them into your memory so that you can, like we were talking back at our last conversation, that we drill them so that we can speak very fluently, like I'm not doing right now, and I do many times. We just need more practice at speaking and standing up for what is right. Start
sparking debates, like start having those critical conversations. get heated if you have to. Like, learn how to overcome those feelings when you're talking to people.
Great point.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's not
And
easy. And when
learn how
you're
to
in
control that and
already
use it.
stressful scenario,
Mm-hmm.
and someone tells you to do something you don't want to do, like, don't blow up. Stay in control. There's a whole thought movement, and it's kind of resurfacing. It's called Stoicism.
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 Stoic.
It's
Yeah,
Stoicism.
I think it's Stoicism. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but to be stoic, meaning to not have an emotional response to news. And I can't remember who the guy was, but I was watching the video about it, and the example was very wealthy man. His entire business, his main business, he's watching the whole thing burn, and he just stood there watching the whole thing burn down.
Wow.
And his daughter was like 20, 23, somewhere in that range. She's like, "Dad, what are we going to do?" And he goes, "There's nothing that can be done. We'll rebuild tomorrow."
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, no emotion, no freaking out. Like, he's just like, okay, it is what it is. How do we fix things going forward?
Mm-hmm.
So we as preppers need to be, it is what it is. Let's rebuild. What is my plan to fix this? What is my plan to overcome this? Right? Don't just give up and give in. Like, I get that comment so often, especially on TikTok when I post a video about making sure you have your basics in line. Like, I did one just recently. It's like, make sure you have your 30-day pantry. Make sure you have at least 2 weeks of water. Make sure you have money on hand or cash for up to 90 days. Right. And then I said also life insurance. And everyone's going nuts. I don't need any of that for the apocalypse. Oh, and then the other half of the people were like, I'm just going to die. If things get that bad, I'm going to die. I'm just going to end it. I don't want to live in that kind of world. And I'm like, no. Guys, this isn't apocalypse advice. This is practical living advice.
Yeah.
Statistically, you are going to have bad things happen in life, such as job loss, chronic or critical illness hit your household, right? Death of a loved one. Water. We're all on municipal water. That stuff goes wrong all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Last summer, there was 2 different cities near us where they're like, sorry, don't drink the water for the next 2 days. We're solving it. How many people are like, ooh, running to the store to get water? I'm like, dude, I got plenty of water here. I don't have to go anywhere. Shut all the water off. We're good.
One of my friends woke up the other day and it was so cold here, and she's in Bountiful area. She said that her water was frozen. Like it didn't even run through the pipes because it was frozen. And that was something that's, she called the plumber and there's like, yeah, I'll come out and put a heater on it and $750. She's like, no, thanks. I could put a heater on it myself, So but that's a reality that she woke up to, and she didn't that's something that's everyday occurrences that we just don't know are going to happen. And if you have water on hand, you can take care of at least cooking. You may not get to shower that day, but at least you can cook and wash the dishes if you have some water on hand.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, people either A, they'll freak out in a bad situation, or B, they'll plan for the worst possible in their mind, but not physically plan for that worst possible. Like, they'll worry about the worst possible scenario, but then they won't do anything to negate it. They won't do anything. Like, if you think an army is going to come in and destroy everything, fortify your home, fortify your neighborhood, fortify your town, fortify the city, the state, like, build it up, the nation, right? Don't just start hanging the white flag, like, before they even show up on our shores. Like, don't give up.
But Scott, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing. There are just too many of them. Might as well not even try.
It only took 3% of the population of men during colonial times to start and win a revolution.
That's awesome.
Against the greatest power in the world at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a greater power and movement now. And that's God, and he's working on your heart and your mind if you're here listening to this right now.
Mm-hmm.
And he will inspire you to do things to get through this. We're Americans, not French.
Right? We fight, we stand.
I was speaking French the other day, and I almost said oui, oui, and I'm like, don't do it, Scott, stop. Right? Like, But we
Yeah,
need
absolutely.
to be Americans again, right? We need to stand up. Liberty, like Jesus Christ is the most liberty-minded person that ever existed. He was trying to get us out of whatever chains and shackles that we allowed around us, whether it's government or sin,
Mm-hmm.
so we could be free. We can be truly free. And if you want to be free, if you want peace, get prepared.
Yeah.
If you want freedom, stand up for your rights. They're only your rights as long as you stand up for them. As soon as you let them get trampled, they're not your rights anymore. They're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, a lot of us, we were born into a system. Almost everybody in
Mhm.
America at this point was born into a system where all of your rights have already been trampled upon and taken.
Yep.
And so we have to fight back to get those and remain those. And a lot of that is starting with a debate, asking questions, pushing the boundaries.
Mm-hmm. And while you're doing that, building the skills necessary to survive in case that doesn't work.
Mhm.
You know, there's a great set of scriptures that says that there was a war was going on, and there was a situation where one leader was talking to another leader, and he said, you know, we would rather be able to preach the word of God to change the people, but where that doesn't work, we will use our swords to accomplish our goals. And unfortunately, in today's world, we can do so much with our voice, and we can do a lot more than we think we can, by the way. There's a lot of really good, powerful things we can do with our voice. But then you have to have the skill sets necessary so that when that doesn't work, that's why if you read back and look into history on the revolution didn't start as the first line of defense. That wasn't the first thing that they did. They fought with words. They fought with ideas first. They tried to make changes politically, diplomatically. They tried to make changes legally. None of that worked. And so the kinetic response was the last resort. And when you get to the point of kinetic response, you better know how to fight. You better know how to defend yourself. You better know how to use, whether it's, you know, punching and martial arts, or whether it's using a firearm or using a knife or using a sword or whatever tool you want to use to defend yourself. You've got to know how to use it properly to actually defend yourself. If you're just wailing around, you're going to get overtaken really quickly. So you got to know what you're going to do. I wanted to share something that I think would be really good for somebody and this is good in anything and everything that you do, but let's just say, for example, that you had that question that was proposed at the beginning of the show. What do we do if there's lockdowns? And how should we prepare if there's a lockdown? One of the first things I would suggest doing, and this is something that I do with myself quite often when I'm trying to figure out what to do, is I'll go into a place that's kind of quiet and I'll get into maybe meditative prayer stance, whatever you want to do. But I would just quiet my mind and think about it for a minute. Okay, imagine myself in a situation where I'm locked down and run scenarios in my mind. Like if I was in a lockdown, what would happen? What would be the consequence of that? Well, I wouldn't be able to get to the store probably, or at least not when I want to. So maybe I should have some of those items on hand. Maybe the lockdown would be so I couldn't get out. So maybe I should have some games, and I should have some things that my kids can do, because if we're not allowed to go outside, we need to be able to stay entertained inside. So what can we do inside to keep entertained and keep ourselves from going? Run scenarios in your mind. And I promise you, there's something called the spirit of revelation, and it's it's the Holy Ghost, it's the Spirit of God, it's the spirit of revelation, it's your intuition. Call it what you will, I suppose, but I'm calling it the Holy Ghost and the spirit of revelation. When you sit and think and you ask God and you ask and say, "What can I do?" and ideas start to come to your mind, those are the ideas that are the inspiration of what you need to do in your scenario for you and your family first. And then once you have those things down, ask again. Okay, I did this. I learned this. I planned for this. What's next? What do I do next? And if you run those scenarios in your mind, eventually you're going to get the answers that you're looking for. And I think that's a powerful
write
way
it
to do
down, and then continue to follow that same train of thought as you were inspired to go down that. Because you're absolutely right, Paris. That's what I do. I use a lot of thought, and unfortunately, a lot of that is in the shower in the morning, using a lot of hot water.
Got to get a waterproof notepad from now on.
Yes, so I can write my thoughts down in the shower. But yeah, absolutely, I mean, I do a lot of writing, and I think I get a lot of inspiration that way through having a clear mind and writing my thoughts down. Just call it prayer as well. It's a form of prayer, absolutely. Um, and but like you're saying, turning back toward that initial question is, what would I do? And I can only decide for myself. I can only say for myself what I would do, right? What are you willing to do? Like Scott was saying, we've got to stand up for ourselves. We've got to uh, do what we can legally, I guess you could say, even though that legality, those laws are clamping down on us more and more, and calling things that were at one time you could, the sheriff. I was watching Andy Griffith the other day, and this guy was coming into town and he was stealing watches and everything, and they just ran him out of town. They didn't arrest him. They ran him out of town. And now what they do? They throw the book at him, right? And so that's just a silly example of the way
now
things
they
have
arrest
changed.
the guy that got stolen from.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Everyone that complained.
You're absolutely right. Well, you let him, so we're putting you in jail. Yeah, they're benefiting the criminals, is the way the laws are turning, the way they have been. So that for me takes a lot of introspection, looking inside and say, okay, what am I really willing to do in that situation? And I know that's a little bit off the beaten path of bugging in, which I think we were trying to get to a little bit too, and on lockdown. But it is a very personal question. I'll end my thoughts with that.
Well, Utah Mike actually responded with his own idea. If we're facing a lockdown scenario, the first thing he's going to do is take a nap, right? Get rested. He can do that because he's prepared.
Yeah.
Like it's the old adage. The farmer's hiring a guy and he's like, I need someone that can, if the wind's blow, or if I need someone that can take care of this and this and this and this. And he's like, I need you to do all these different chores. And the guy's like, can you do that? And the guy's response was, "Yep, I can sleep when the wind blows." He's like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "No, go. What is your qualification?" He's like, "I can sleep when the wind blows." I'm totally butchering the story, but the point is the next storm that hit in the middle of the night, this huge storm, and the farmer wakes up. He's like, "Oh man, I gotta go make sure this is taken care of." And he sees this guy sleeping, and he's like, "What?" And he goes to check the cows, and the cows are already taken care of. They're inside the barn. They're good. The barn's boarded up, safe. Goes to check on the horses. Same situation with the horses. Goes to check on the chickens. Goes to make sure that the gutter system is set up and everything's running away from the house. Yep, it's all set. The guy's sleeping. Why? Because he took care of everything already. Everything's done. And I look at that and I'm like, that's something I'm trying to work on and be better at. But I look at that and I'm like, wow, I feel like Shane, I feel like you're a good example of that because you think further along than I do. Like you. It's like chess. Preparedness is like chess. Like you look further down than I'm currently looking.
I'm playing 4D chess. That's what I'm doing.
Star Trek chess.
Yeah, exactly. Or Star Wars. Yeah, with multiple levels or whatever. But no, you're absolutely right. That's something, it's part of being not just a prepper, but again, I'm going to say it again. Sorry. Look to the past to prepare for the future. What did our pioneer heritage? What did they do? All summer long, they prepared for winter, right? They prepared for the bad weather all summer. That's all they were focused on. And unfortunately, we've gotten away from that because everything has gotten so easy. We've got so many comforts that we really don't have to look out for those things. So when those emergencies come along, it takes people by surprise. They're not even looking forward to that. Oh, look, the storm's coming. What am I going to do? What do I need to do to be prepared for the storm? Just like you're saying, Scott, perfect example.
A big part of that is that in America, especially in first world countries, we take for granted that we have such an easy life, comparatively speaking. I mean, there's people in this world right now that are living with no running water in their home. They don't have a toilet. They don't have flushing. They don't have the dirt floors, probably. I mean, there's still people in this world that have to do some they have civil war in their country. They have leaders that are tyrants and despots. They have to live under horrible conditions. Maybe they're starving to death because their leader won't let them do that. And they can't even do food storage or other things. I mean, we in America, we have it pretty darn easy. And because of that, I think we've let some of these skill sets or the motivation to develop these skill sets has kind of gone by the wayside. we have to remember that the natural state in life is decay and suffering. That's the default for life. And if you want to be able to fight that, the real thing to do is to take responsibility for developing skill sets and developing yourself in such a way that you can work to find meaning in the suffering and fight against that, and then aim at the greatest good possible, and then work to develop that and create that in your world, in your family, first for yourself, and then for your family, and then you have your family work on the community, and then the community works on the state, and the state, the country. It expands from you, but it extends from the idea that each one of us is a sovereign individual. We have the inalienable rights that have been given to us, that the Constitution says we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is interesting that, Kamala Harris actually gave a speech the other day about promotion of abortion, and she forgot to say that it was that we have the right to life. She said the right to happiness and the property, but she didn't say that part. Anyways, total sidetrack there. That was a little squirrel. That was a rabbit hole squirrel right there. But anyways, the point is that if you take responsibility for you and your family and your life, all of these scenarios, you'll start to, it's kind of a cool thing that this spirit of revelation kind of just comes at you, because you're in the world of preparedness, and you start to really have these inspirations or these thoughts, and you know exactly what to do to be able to be prepared and ready in whatever scenario might come at you. And I think it's really cool is that once you start down this road, it just opens up this whole room to you of possibilities. And you start to think, wow, like, for example, my daughter was, she went out to go to work today, and her battery was dead. So she's like, Dad, I need a jump. Well, do you have jumper cables? I had jumper cables, thank goodness. And I was able to give her a jump. In fact, I told her, she went to the store the other day, and I said, hey, make sure you buy jumper cables for your car, because I have them in my other cars, but we didn't have one in her car yet. So even simple things like day-to-day things like jumper cables, do you have those things in your preps? And every scenario you're in, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, think about a couple things. Be aware, if this happened, what would I do? If that happened, what would I do? And run a couple scenarios, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, run a couple scenarios and see what inspiration comes. And you'll start to realize that there's a lot out there that you can really be ready for. And it's pretty cool, actually, I think.
Man, it's funny because we go back to homesteading so often. It's kind of like the one of the ideals.
Yeah.
And I want to get less grid reliant.
Mm-hmm. I
want to have more control of my local environment, and I'm looking at solutions for that. Because we're getting our house ready to sell, and I'm like, man, it would be so nice if I could just XYZ.
But what is the world and the government teaching us right now? What are they wanting us to do? The exact
They're
opposite,
wanting us to 100% rely. Why are they putting so much money into electric cars when the grid can't sustain it?
Right? And take us off of gas and put us into electricity so that
they can control it.
So they can control it. Exactly.
So maintaining your freedom, maintaining your ability to do things without having to rely on a whole lot of other outside sources is going to be key. Like, do I really want a full functioning homestead? Not a whole, not the traditional set, right? I want simplified. I want as many perennial food production plants as possible. I want alpacas. I want Coturnix quail. Do I want anything else after that, animal wise? Not really.
We'll see. Right?
Maybe if I've got enough acreage, maybe I can play with some other stuff. Maybe I can get a cow and name her Helen. I don't know. Like my friend, one of my friends, they actually just got a second cow, and it's Helen and Ruth. And I'm like, all right. And they're like, no, we think we're going to get a third cow. I'm like, what?
Dang.
Right?
That's awesome.
You get one animal, and it's like, I got to get more. I got to do. It's easy to go crazy, but it's like, also at the same time, it's like you have resources that are producing for you, right? It's passive preps. Like, you tell Mike, what does alpaca taste like? I have no idea. They're not to eat so much as a wool production. It's when it's not even wool. It's alpaca fiber is hypoallergenic. It's softer than wool. It wicks better than wool. Like, there's everything about it. It's better. And I'm like, I want that.
And they're cute too.
And they're adorably ugly. and they're nice. Like there's alpaca, which is the smallest, and then there's llama, and then there's camel. It's all from the same family, but they're also the nicest temperament of the three. Like camel
Can you
spit
ride
and they're
them?
mean, llamas spit and they're sometimes nice. Alpacas really don't spit. They can, but they're really just like, hey, what you doing? They're like my 4-year-old. They'll follow you around like, what you doing? What you doing? I'm your shadow. How's it going? What's going on?
Can you ride them?
Got enough of them, they'll keep each other busy. And
Maybe a small child could ride them,
right?
Oh, okay.
But I'm sure they'd barbecue up just fine, Mike. You know, everything with the right sauce can taste better.
Yeah, that's true. So
Right?
make sure you have sauce in your food storage.
Freeze dry that barbecue sauce. All you got to do is add water, you know, and make sure you have a good water catchment system. You know,
Yeah.
Speaking of that, like most cities right now, most counties are giving out water catchment systems. Like in Utah, they all are. You can go get your own free drum for water catchment.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to check that out.
Almost every city, all summer long, they had it. Now that we've got enough rain coming in or snow and everything, they might be slowing down on that. But I didn't take advantage of it because I'm like, I already have too many to collect.
I hadn't heard about that here, so I'm looking that up as well.
That's cool.
But
yeah, alpaca can also be used. Yes, alpaca can also be used as a pack animal. They're really good at that.
Yep.
They're also a really good alarm system. They let you know when there's a predator around. So there's a lot of good benefits there. And if you shave everything but the head, it looks like a 4-legged Q-tip. And that is like the coolest pet you could I don't know. I just
like a poodle.
It's a silly dream I've had for years. You know, I'm not cool enough to have like other dreams and life ambitions, but that's at the very least that's my retirement. Like I'm gonna get to the point where I'm mostly off grid, if not all the way off grid, and I've got some alpacas. My wife's like, I'm okay with that once the kids are grown, and I'm like, just got to get her okay with that now.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Don't wait. That's one thing I've learned, you know. You guys know I've been working on my property and finally got that going in the last year, and I'm so glad I didn't wait any longer. You know, it's just got to do it now. If you have the means, you figure it out. You just got to do it now. It's and I'm still speeding it up my timetable. You know, I'm still trying to retire as early as I can. You know, retire in the I'm throwing up the air quotes retire, because that just doesn't exist anymore. If you ask me, you know, that's just get out of the rat race and figure out how to make a living off grid, right?
Yeah, amen to that. I think it's important when you're gonna bug in to think about what can you do in your own walls of your own home to stay sane and to stay safe and to stay warm, or to stay cool if it's at the summertime, or to have enough food to survive and water. And even if you've got to make like some hydroponic thing on your porch and grow something, grow some vegetables, have a garden inside. There's some things that you can do to really be more proactive and be self-reliant and be learning skills, like we talked about on the last podcast, is skill sets and skill drilling down. So there's a lot we can do when we're trying to figure out how to shelter in place. And there's a lot that we can have inspiration on if we really seek the sources that will give us that inspiration, which is God. And then learning how to teach our family those things and speaking of that, if you're on YouTube, you'll see Scott's young little boy came, and that's family. We're all about family. So God, family, and then teaching our country how to be more proactive about our liberties and what we want to do here on this earth to be, if we're going to be here together, we might as well work together safely as much as possible. So God, family, and country, guys, that's where we're at. So stay ready-minded, stay ready, stay vigilant, stay diligent. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much for listening. Check out our YouTube channel, like and subscribe. Go to our Facebook page. Go to our website, preppertalkradio.com. Check out our Amazon store so that you can see what gear we have. And we really appreciate it. All those links will be in the description below. And you can hit us up if you want. We've actually had a couple people write us, email us, and we're really excited to hear this. So if you want to email us, preppertalkradio@gmail.com. So I'd love to hear from you. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.